These 2.5 to 3 millimeter blocks are a real challenge to tie. So I thought I'd just take you through how I go about it. In Goodwin's book, he has a double and a single block. He has let's see this. He has a double block on the back of the cannon and a single block on the deck, and the same thing, he has a double block on the side of the ship and a single block on the side of the cannon. We're using 3 millimeter single blocks on both. You need 2 pieces of line to make the tie. First of all, there's the sheet on the block and tackle, which is a 0.5 millimeter line, and you can use the very thin line provided by the kit, or I just use khaki colored thread. The thinner the better, because you really want it to disappear on the block. Then I tie a simple half hitch on the sheet line, and pass the tying line through that half hitch and pull it tight, and then make sure I level out the tying line so it's in the middle. Both lines tend to be about 5 inches long. Pull them tight, and then you put a second half hitch on the sheet line and pull it tight, and that's ready to tie the block on. The reason you want the tying lines to be at least 5-6 inches long is that when you go to install the cannons, you have very little working space, and you want to be able to be working further out and right up inside a tiny little spot. So you need the line much longer than you would use it, simply to make it easier to install. Next, take the tying line and tie a half hitch, just like a shoelace. You're tying a shoelace, and get it real small so it's close to the size of the block. I'll never be able to show you this properly, but this is the hardest part of all. It's really getting the line around the block. It's going to take me 5 minutes, so I'm not going to show you my frustrating 5 minutes. Well, somehow this got done in less than a minute. So you get one half hitch on, and then what I do to lock it in place is I put a dab of CA, which I've prepared, right on the side of the block, because this is where all the friction is, not on the where you're going to tighten, not on the top of the block where you're going to tighten. And once that holds, then you can put the second half hitch on it and pull it in place, and there you have the block made up. Then to end it off, I put a little CA on the sheet knot, and you pull this line taut so that if you get any CA on it, it's in the direction that you're going to pull it when you attach it to the cannon. It's at this time now, once it's all dried and set up, that you want to open up the hole in the block. And so a simple pin drill. Now we're going to add what is called the traversing tackle fall. I called it, remember, a sheet, but it's really called the tackle fall. So again, using the thin line, pass it through these very small eyes that we installed, and you simply tie the equivalent of a reef knot, whatever you're comfortable with, just keep it really very tight on the cannon. And you do 2 of these. And you have the choice of using PVA or CA, whichever you are more comfortable with. And there's the traversing tackle line. On these sides here, you simply put just a regular block which has no traversing line on it. The single blocks, a version of what we just went through, so there's no need to go through. Again, fairly frustrating to get it on. I use the same technique, that once I get it to catch on the sides, I use CA to lock it in place and then tie the final knot. And so here we have it all done. We'll put some CA on. I use CA, you can use PVA, you can use watered down PVA. I like CA because I know the knot is not going to come out on me when I stick it. So I pull it in a direction that I know it's going to go in, and even if it's hard, it won't be an issue. And the boat is now fully rigged and ready to take the cannon installations. There are a few tools that you're going to need to rig the cannons. And first of all, the most important part is this needle threader, which I've put on an old knitting needle. And that allows me to get where my hands cannot get, just like this block, and get it inside there that I would never normally get. The second thing relates to age, and that's really a light. If my wife saw me doing this, she'd be most upset, but I find this is almost as important as a good pair of glasses. Using the magnifier headset is really not good for this work, because you have to get right down to the model, and it's very hard. So you'll notice I actually have a series of different color glasses. Colors have nothing to do with it. But these are different strength glasses, and since you're working far away, you actually, this is a 300, and it really is, put this together with a light, and it allows you to really do some very fine work. Of all the jobs on the model, this is certainly the one that requires the most patience. This video leads one to think that this was done, in one sitting. This is about 5 sittings. It reached the stage where I would get very frustrated and have to stop and go away. Quite often, when you think you've lined up the blocks correctly, you either pull the string the wrong way through the block, or the block twists, which happens quite often, and the way you thought the ropes would lie, they ended up lying in the opposite direction, and they cross. And there's nothing that looks worse than cannons with cross lines. I've reoriented the model to try and give you a slight inkling of the frustration, and all I'll say is that you need to stick with it, and eventually you'll get it right, and the model will look fantastic. There was no easy answer on how to coil ropes that are already in place. The system we've developed is really simple. It's made up of a few parts. This little round disc, plastic disc, a piece of see-through plastic, and one of the pins. So you simply thread your string through the plastic hole, and then you take the pin, put the piece of clear plastic through it. In the case of on the model, you have to make this piece here very easy, it doesn't stick out too much, and you push the pin through it like that. And what I do is I wet the line simply to make it susceptible to the glue. Then I take some full strength glue and rub it all over the line. The water on the line will dilute it a bit. Now all you need to do is press the clear plastic down and start winding the string on this little gizmo, keeping the clear plastic hard against the bottom yellow plastic. Now what you have is a nice rope coil that you can see. Just need to leave that with the plastic down and let it dry before you mount it. To take it off, you simply need a utility knife, and off it comes, and you've got just to cut that piece off when it dries. In the case of the model, wet the line, and we put the full strength glue on it. And then push the plastic cover down and start winding it. As you get close to the end, you want to get it in as much as you can, and you need to be very careful that it doesn't ride up on the coil. And you'll simply leave it like that at this point in time until it dries for at least an hour. The reason we make these circles this small is because they really have to get as close to the cannon as possible. So the smaller the circle, the closer you're going to get to that spot. I was beginning to wonder if I'd ever solve this problem. Perseverance and good technique has resulted in beautifully coiled ropes. We've attached the breeching rope, the gun tackle, and the training tackle. So we're now ready to start putting the mast in and to start with the shrouds.